This opportunity to welcome Premier Ford, Minister Piccini, Minister Oosterhoff here to St. Catharines, all the representatives from the Ontario government, because we are here for a very important issue here in the city of St. Catharines, a very important industry that matters a lot to this community. Shipbuilding and ship repair have played a vital role in the city of St. Catharines for generations. And it's become a cornerstone of our local economy and a key contributor to the broader national economic landscape. The skilled trades involved in these industries have been instrumental in shaping the city's identity and fostering its economic growth. Today's announcement underscores a renewed commitment to revitalizing the shipbuilding industry in Ontario, bolstered by the recently approved Ontario Marine Strategy. I'm excited to see yet another investment in the upskilling of workers in St. Catharines and the Niagara region. We know that our industrial base is capable of meeting the demands of the 21st century with the right training opportunities. Provincial government's investment is a welcome step for the workers of our community, and it's a clear demonstration of their dedication to empowering individuals to thrive in the modern workforce by providing them with the necessary tools and the knowledge that they need to succeed. The City of St. Catharines remains dedicated to fostering a strong, diverse, and local economy, and together we stand by our local partners like Sean and the team here at Ontario Shipyards in creating a workforce for both current and future generations. At this time, I'd like to ask Minister Oosterhoff to come up.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and it is an absolutely beautiful afternoon. You know, some days, like Sean was saying earlier, it's minus 40 or plus 30, and on those days we say it's a federal responsibility, but today, weather is all the province, and I think we can all enjoy it. I'm excited to be here for some really good news from Premier Ford and Minister Piccini. They're coming back to beautiful Niagara for yet another great news announcement, and we've all seen here in the region how great a friend Premier Ford has been to workers, to families, and those in the Niagara region. And under his leadership, we have seen Niagara grow and prosper with new private sector jobs and historic investments coming to every corner of our region. Our peninsula will continue to grow. With Premier Ford, we've been working to build the roads, the highways, transit, homes, hospitals, and the schools that our growing communities need. We have been and will continue to build up the economy of our province so that people here in Niagara and in every corner of Ontario have good jobs that are needed to support families. So I look forward to working hard to continuing to ensure our government will provide the right tools, the right investments to help the province's businesses thrive and ultimately to support workers like those who build world-class ships right here in St. Catharines. Now I have the privilege of welcoming someone who's helped to make the dream of what's happening here at Ontario Shipyards a reality, Sean Padulo, to bring a few words. Sean.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sean Padulo, and I'm the CEO of Ontario Shipyards. On behalf of the 250 dedicated employees at Ontario Shipyards, I extend a warm welcome to our distinguished guests, Premier Ford, Minister Piccini, and Associate Minister Sam Oosterhoff. It's great to see you. Sam's a huge champion for the region. The Ford administration, particularly through the Ministry of Labour, Immigration, Training, and Skills Development under Minister David Piccini, has played a pivotal role in the revitalization of our shipyards and shipyards across Ontario. This support has enabled us to advance multiple phases of the Ontario Shipyard Modernization Project. On a personal note, the Skills Development Fund has been crucial during times when work was scarce, allowing us to keep our workforce intact through various training initiatives. This support has directly benefited over 250 families, ensuring their stability, and many of those families are represented by the fine folks right behind me here. Actually, there you go, guys. So I just want to extend a thank you to Minister Oosterhoff, Minister Piccini, and Premier Ford. Ontario was once the epicenter of shipbuilding in Canada, and today Canada is engaged in the largest shipbuilding procurement in our history, the National Shipbuilding Strategy. We in Ontario have the capacity to contribute significantly to this national effort. I'm proud of the ships being built on the East Coast and the West Coast and in Quebec. However, for the National Shipbuilding Strategy to truly be national, Ontario must play a meaningful role. In this spirit, I'd like to welcome several key suppliers and members of Team Vigilance, a coalition of Ontario companies assembled to support the Canadian Multi-Mission Corvette program. Tim Scott from Scott's Marine, President and owner. Scott Menzies from the Coating Inspector. Pinnacle Logistics, Aaron Gerber, if you're here, Aaron. From literally just down the street, Rob Forstinger, who's the president of FBT Technologies. It's an amazing company, and thank you for coming today, Rob. And also from the Niagara Industrial Association, we have Jordan Shorlock, who represents many, many businesses here in Niagara that will benefit from shipbuilding coming back home. Thank you. This isn't just about Ontario shipyards. It's about a vast supply chain involving thousands of hardworking men and women across our province. And on that note, I would like to introduce a man who truly cares about people and workers in Ontario, Minister David Piccini.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Sean, for the kind introduction, and a big thank you for hosting us. And you heard there from Sean, we, I think, have to continue celebrating entrepreneurs and young leaders like you. And every time Sean speaks to me about shipbuilding, I can see the passion, but it's always underscored by a story, and that story is about these workers. He always leads with them. And that's why we're here today. And Sean, I applaud the hard work you've done to transform and rebrand Heddle Shipyards to now Ontario Shipyards. This fresh start recognizes the strength that Ontario workers bring to the table and has opened a new door to fulfilling well-paying and in-demand jobs in this industry. Gone are the days where Ontario is looked to for just maintenance and repairs, but rather Ontario workers are the ones to build the ships as well. Ontario wants in. We want to be a part of this strategy. We have the workers, and this team has put Ontario back on the map. And I was reflecting a bit on history. We stood up to the aggressors in Germany and were part of the Allied efforts in the World War. In fact, shipbuilding dates back to the 18th century in Ontario. And it's great to be here alongside Premier Ford, who's leaving no stone unturned to building a stronger Ontario. Not just automotive, not just critical minerals, but shipbuilding too. Why can't we be part of that effort? And it's not an either or, it's an and. We applaud our Canadian cousins from coast to coast who are building those ships. But I'm looking behind me, and I see a team ready to get the job done. Our government's plan to grow Ontario's labour market with a partnership of employers like Ontario Shipyards will attract and retain the next generation of skilled trades workers we need. And there's been no better champion for those workers than Minister Sam Oosterhoff. Nearly 195,000 jobs were recently going unfilled across the province, costing billions in lost income to our economy. That's why, since 2021, under the leadership of this Premier Ford, our government has invested up to $1.4 billion through our Skills Development Fund. Across the province, these projects have trained nearly 600,000 workers for in-demand jobs, including over 92,000 manufacturing workers, 66,000 construction workers, and over 36,000 personal support workers and healthcare workers. You heard from Sean about how valuable this fund has been for workers as we train a next generation with better training, better jobs with bigger paychecks. And we're going to continue to support training projects that give workers, job seekers, and employers hope for a better tomorrow. In fact, last month, the Premier and I announced the 5th round of our Skills Development Fund training stream with an investment of up to $260 million, the largest round of funding since we launched this program in 2021. And I encourage everyone, our labor union partners, employment services, training providers, businesses, entrepreneurs, industry organizations, associations to apply to this fund. It's going to help more youth, job seekers, and skilled workers to receive the training and be ready to fill rewarding jobs in in-demand sectors closer to home. Under Premier Ford, we are working to build a brighter future for everyone in our province, leaving no one behind. Together, we can make Ontario the best place to live, work, and raise a family. We can bring back shipbuilding to this province in a meaningful way and grow this remarkable industry. They are doing the work here and deserve to be part of this national strategy. And our message to the federal government is clear. We're the engine of the Canadian economy. We have the talent. And behind each and every dollar in Skills Trades Development Fund is a story of the workers you see behind us, a story of the worker who wants better training in this ever-changing world, a better job with a bigger paycheck. And under Premier Ford, under his leadership, we're laser-focused to make that happen. So I'd like to turn it over for a Premier who's bringing back manufacturing in a big way to Ontario, Premier Doug Ford. Thank you, everyone.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, David, for that introduction. And it's great to be back here in the beautiful city of St. Catharines, alongside, you just heard from Minister Piccini and Minister Oosterhoff. Before I begin, I want to give a big thank you to Sean and everyone at Ontario Shipyards for hosting us here today. And thank you, everyone. I want to give a big shout out to the Mayor Sisko. Thank you. You're doing a great job running the city and attracting more jobs here. Ontario Shipyards is one of the great Made in Ontario success stories. From one welding machine on the side of Hamilton in an industrial area 37 years ago, the company has grown into the largest ship repair and construction company on the Great Lakes, employing hundreds of people. And we're so proud of what you've accomplished here. Thank you for all you've done. I also want to acknowledge and welcome again Jordan from the Niagara Industrial Association, all the other suppliers and representatives from some of our great local companies that support our growing shipbuilding industry. Thank you for joining us today. As the Mayor mentioned, Ontario's shipbuilding industry and the broader marine sector play such an important role in the region's economy. This sector also supports thousands of jobs across the province and is a key driver for trade. That's why our government has stepped up with a strategic initiative and targeted investments to boost the industry. In 2022, we launched the Ontario Shipyard Modernization Project with an $8.7 million investment to modernize our province's shipyards. Through our marine transportation strategy, we're working with public and private industry partners to build and revitalize port infrastructure, to strengthen connections between marine and other modes of transportation, and importantly, to attract more workers. Because as I've always said, manufacturing facilities like this one, can't build, can't operate if they don't have the workers. That's why last year I joined Sean in Hamilton to announce $3.7 million in new funding to provide workers with the essential hands-on shipbuilding experience. And that's why in our 2024 budget, we announced a new grant program to help Ontario shipbuilding industries upgrade infrastructure and equipment so it can compete on an even footing for shipbuilding procurement contracts. But we also need the federal government to recognize the talent and experience that Ontario's shipbuilding industry has a lot to offer. And I'm just going to read off a couple stats. You know, we're the engine of Canada. We give back more than any other province, and we have no problem, you know, spreading it throughout the country. But here are some numbers. Seaspan Shipyards, ships awarded in British Columbia, they had 23 awarded to them, and estimated value at about $22 billion. Quebec, Chantier Davy, ships awarded 9 contracts estimated at over $14.5 billion. And in Nova Scotia, Irving Shipyards, they were awarded 23 contracts estimated at $80 billion. And I have no problem with any of those provinces, any of those companies, but what I have a problem with, Ontario Shipyards, they were awarded zip, zero, zilch. And it's our money, Ontario, hardworking people, paying their taxes. They're going to all other provinces. That's unacceptable. We need our fair share of the pie, and we're going to continue fighting for our great workers behind us. We need to ensure that it's fairly treated and considered for federal shipbuilding contracts. And here in Ontario, we will continue to do our part. And today, I am pleased to announce an additional $10 million in funding through our government Skills Development Fund for skills training programs here in St. Catharines. And not just here in St. Catharines, in Hamilton and Thunder Bay. This investment will help reskill and upskill existing workers for careers in the millwright, welding, electrical, and painting trades, and many more. It will give new workers hands-on experience in shipbuilding and ship repair. And it will help recruit and retain the next generation of workers and leaders in our shipbuilding industry. Friends, our government is always going to be here to support the hard-working people of Niagara Region. We've expanded GO Train service between Toronto and Niagara Falls. We're investing in roads and highways like the QEW Garden City Skyway Bridge Twinning Project. We're building the South Niagara Hospital, and that's going up rapidly. And we're working hard to create the conditions for companies like Ontario Shipyards to grow, prosper, to continue to grow our province's manufacturing sector, and to train workers for better jobs and bigger paychecks for them and their families. Now, just before I finish, I want to take a moment to address the ongoing labor negotiations with CN Rail and CPKC and their union partners. Workers and businesses here in St. Catharines, throughout Ontario and across North America, are counting on all parties to come together to avoid a strike and reach an agreement. Any disruptions in rail service would hurt small businesses, medium and large, that rely on shipments, drive up costs for groceries and essential impact on public safety, and only worsen the challenges many families and communities are already facing. Again, I encourage all parties to do whatever they can to avoid a costly strike. What I don't agree with is threatening to lock out workers is not the answer. We need everyone to treat each other with respect and be laser focused on getting the deal done. It's in everyone's best interest to reach a fair agreement that supports both workers and the economy and protects jobs on both sides of the border. I want to thank you all for joining us today, and may God bless the people of Ontario. Thank you.
We will now go to report. Sorry. We will now go to. Oh my goodness. We will now go to reporters' questions. Reporters, please line up at the mic behind me. Please identify yourself by name and outlet. It'll be one question, one follow-up. First question.
Thank you. Premier Mark McAllister from City News.
Hi, Mark.
Obviously, there's a number of questions from my colleagues and I about the announcement yesterday regarding the safe consumption sites. At this point, it sounds as though you want them to make the transition into the heart hubs, as has been announced as well. Just curious what your thoughts are. How do people who refuse treatment go about making that transition themselves? How do you get them into programs and services that you want them to get into?
Well, you know something, I just don't believe these safe consumption sites. I've listened to the people in the neighborhoods. I've consulted with them. I've been getting endless phone calls about needles being in the parks, needles being by the schools and by the daycare. That's unacceptable. What we believe in these heart hubs is we're putting $378 million into supporting people with primary care, mental health services, addiction care and support, social services, employment support, shelter and transition beds, supportive housing and other supplies and services, including naloxone and on-site showers. So, you know, giving someone, an addict, a place to do their injections, we haven't seen it get better. This was supposed to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. It's the worst thing that could ever happen to a community to have one of these safe injection sites in their neighborhood. The other problem I have was with the federal government. You know, safe supply. They get to go up there and get endless amounts of drugs, and guess what they do? They go out and they sell it and get other people addicted. and then they go and get even stronger drugs. But as far as I'm concerned, the federal government's the biggest drug dealer in the entire country. It's unacceptable. It needs to stop. We need to get rid of safe supply. We need to put money into treatment, detox beds. That's what we need to do, not continue to giving people free drugs.
Really quickly on another matter, a few weeks ago, City News had a story that, including video, exclusive video of an undercover police officer, while a takedown was taking place, coming out of nowhere and taking down someone, a bystander, and seriously injuring them. Just looking for your thoughts on that matter and whether or not you think the officer involved should be disciplined in any way.
Well, I never heard about it. It's the first time I've heard about it, and I don't want to comment until I get full details from the police. You know, policing is one of the toughest jobs out there. It's the only profession, and we saw this over the last year when police officers were getting ambushed, killed, and look at their families now. They're devastated. They put their lives on the line for us every single day. When you're in trouble, you know, you aren't calling Mary Poppins. You're calling the police to come here and support you and put their lives on the line. So I support our police 1,000%.
Premier Eric Viano, CHCH News. Just going back to the safe injection sites, there's one that's going to be closing in Hamilton. Many people with addictions also face homelessness. There's concerns that there's going to be deaths and visible drug use in the streets. What are your response to those concerns?
Well, that's why we're investing $378 million to find people shelter, to get them help, to have primary care, mental health services, addictions and care support, and housing, and shelter to transition beds. That's what we need to do. To support these people, you don't give them more drugs.
And Premier, just one more separate. There are reports that there could be an election in the fall. Are you preparing for a fall election?
No.
Next reporter.
Hopefully I'll get an answer that's more than a word for this one. It's Lorenda from CBC News. Your government looked for expert advice on consumption and treatment services. 2 reports have now been added to the government's webpage. They don't recommend closing the Leslieville site. One even recommends expanding consumption and treatment services. So why are you going against expert advice?
Well, first of all, what they forgot to say is public consultation. And I was just wondering how you would feel if I stuck one of these beside your house. You wouldn't like it. Matter of fact, I know you wouldn't like it. Neither would your neighbors, and neither would anyone else. And all the kids, they shouldn't be by schools. They shouldn't be by daycares. And we're going to put more money in for these heart hubs that are going to support people the right way. Not give them a free place where all the drug dealers live. And in Leslieville, endless calls nonstop on my cell phone about thank you for doing this. And we are going to support these people that have issues and addictions. We're going to support them better than ever before. That's what we need to do. There's no place for this.
On another story, your Ministry of the Solicitor General is investigating an alleged assault of multiple Maplehurst inmates by correctional officers in what's being called a coordinated effort last December. What is your understanding of what led to this assault, and what do you make of the fact that several inmates are now asking for their sentences to be reduced because of this?
Again, I'm sorry I didn't hear about this story, but I'll talk to my Attorney General, Solicitor General, and get more details.
Hi, Premier. Siobhan Morris, CTV
Hi,
News. One of the goals I understand you have in this change with CTS sites is to remove, community risk, needles we're finding in the neighborhood. But we are hearing from many people who are working with people struggling with addiction that the changes you're making are only going to exacerbate the problem. You're going to push drug use into parks, out of the CTS sites. You're going to see more needles on the streets. How do you respond to that?
Well, those are just typical scare tactics that these folks have been saying for years. It has not worked. Simple. Ever since they've been up, it's a failed policy. Simple as that. We're making a better policy, $378 million to help these people, support them, get them help, get them back on their feet, get them a good paying job. That's what we need to do. We don't need to feed them drugs. It's really simple. You know, my heart goes out for these folks, but we're there to help them. We aren't there to give them safe injection sites and all the drugs that they need. And, you know, that's one side. I've read numerous articles from doctors that have said this is the best thing that you could have done is move forward and support them, get detox beds and get them rehabilitated. So there's two sides. I'll take the sides of the docs that are telling me it's the right thing to do. Mayors across the province are applauding this decision. Communities are applauding it. It's the right decision, and we're going to support these people and get them back on their feet.
We did hear from nurses and doctors who work in hospitals that they are worried that this will put more strain on hospitals where you have more people being injected with contaminated needles. Have you considered what extra pressure this might put on hospitals?
Again, I don't believe that's the case because we're putting $378 million into supporting them. That $378 million weren't around before. We need more detox beds. We need more rehabilitation beds. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to try to help these people. We aren't going to give them a safe place to shoot up heroin and crack and every other thing that they can get their hands on. You know, I want to try to help them. And I've talked to more docs about this than I guess what you've just mentioned. And they're 1,000% behind it and made the right decision, and it's going to support them.
It's Karina Walter from the St. Catharines Standard. St. Catharines, like many other Ontario cities, are having a problem with homelessness, addictions, and mental health issues. We have a fairly new homeless shelter in the city, but we're still seeing tents dotting different areas. The big city mayors, including Mayor Cisco, have asked the province to appoint a minister who would be in charge of a portfolio that looks at homelessness, mental health, and addictions all together, comes up with solutions, has a task force, puts funding towards it. Is that something that you are willing to do, and why haven't we seen something like that already?
Well, because we have a minister. We have a couple ministers. We have the Minister of Health that's doing a great job. We have the Minister of Mental Health and Addiction, the first ever in Ontario. We're putting $3.8 billion into mental health and addiction. And on the homeless side, we have the Minister of Social Services as well that we're putting hundreds of millions of dollars in. So we're always willing to sit down and talk to the mayors and see their situation. But we're there to support them. There's no government, think of this, there's no government that's put more money into homeless and homeless shelters, mental health and addiction than this government has.
St. Catharines is the largest city in Niagara out of the 12 municipalities, but it's still a small city, and it is putting more and more money into dealing with this problem, money that's coming from property taxes that's supposed to be going to other things, to have supports for people in the community. And I'm just wondering if the city here, if Welland, if Niagara Falls, if we're going to see any direct funding to help supplement some of that money that's being used to do cleanups and to offer supports and provide other, doubling up on city staff, people that have to, for safety reasons, have to be in pairs now going into parks.
Yeah, we're always willing to sit down with the mayors and have a chat with them and look at their needs and their requirements and review the funding that they've already received to make sure it's going into the right place. I'm going to tell you a story about up in Rexdale. Oh,
yeah, I was going to hop in on it.
Okay, go ahead.
No, you tell the story first.
Go ahead.
So very quickly, I did want to just make a note because last year, Niagara received an 86% increase in their homelessness prevention program funding allocation. So there had been a formula in place that said Niagara would get about just shy of $11 million in annual funding. We had ministers of housing. We had the premier come through. We met with local mayors about the needs that they saw here in the Niagara region. That funding was increased from just shy of $11 million to today it's $21 million in annualized funding each and every single year coming into the Niagara region, an 86% increase. Those funds are directly going into homelessness prevention services. They're the reason we're seeing new shelter beds opening up across the region with the support of local municipalities as well. So this government has almost doubled the amount of local funding going to address those issues. And I would say that this is a premier that's led the charge on making that happen. Sorry. I just had to.
That's all right. That's good. That's why I like local guys that know what's going on in their region. But I was just saying up in Rexdale, we had some folks show up to a park and decide to pop up some tents. But what they didn't know, they were being driven there by a fancy pickup truck. They all hopped out and thought it was a campground. Well, and then on video, the neighbors they're running, you know, wearing these $200 sneakers running around, all having cell phones. So, you know, there's a lot of homeless, and we're there to support them. But I'm just speaking for Rexdale. That was, I don't know what was going on there. But I'll tell you one thing, they weren't homeless. They got up, and the pickup truck came by and picked them up, and away they went again to another location. So I'm not too sure what's going on there.
Last question.
Good afternoon, Premier. Adam from Global News. Question for you following up on what you said about the possible CN and CPKC strikes.
Yeah.
What measures can your government take to help make sure the supply chain of the economy doesn't get affected by the labor stoppage that might start tomorrow morning at midnight?
Well, just encouraging both sides to sit down and make a deal. This is a federal issue. I've reached out to the head of the Teamsters and had a chat with him. And hopefully they can put together a deal as quickly as possible. And as for the retailers and everyone else and the supply chains and the auto companies, we're going to have to see how it goes over the next couple of days. But they're making alternate plans to get goods up here, maybe coming up through the U.S. and into our border, then putting them on the backs of the trucks and shipping it up. But you know, that just increases the cost of absolutely everything, and it's not acceptable. So let's make a deal. Let's have a fair deal for the workers and get the economy going, and let's move forward.
Thank you.
If that's it, I just want to give my minister, David Piccini, a big shout out for his comments about Fred Hahn yesterday. I'm proud of you, David, and this guy's been a bully for 20 years. And do you know what's funny? I'm getting messages on my phone from QP members saying his comments have been disgusting. In my opinion, he's a disgusting human being anyways, but that's here nor there. You know, he says he's bigoted comments. It's unacceptable here in Ontario. We have 110 nationalities speaking 200 languages, and we all need to get together. And I encourage QP Canada, someone has to discipline this guy, and I encourage the workers next time a vote comes, vote this character out, because in my opinion, he's just a terrible, terrible human being. Thank you. Very good.